Okay, well, here I am, back to do another video, because I guess ever since I did the video that I last posted, they have upped the attacks to include now microwaving me and my kids, and using their mother to try to send me subliminal messages, okay, using what is called silent subliminal. And again, all these things are, you can search out for yourself in the U.S. Patent Office. It's research SSSS, which is silent sound spectrum, right? In which they use to send silent subliminal, basically mimicking the brainwave of human beings to send subliminal messages. And of course, most people are oblivious to it because they think that no one can control their minds. You know, what they don't know is the government has been spending decades and billions of dollars on mind control technology. Okay. Also, you might have read, I don't know how much of you have read this, but you might have read the NYPD using surveillance technology that can see through walls. Basically, they can surveil you in your home, okay, without installing any camera in your home. Now, I've talked about this for years now. I think well over 10 years I've been talking about this. This technology has been developed decades ago, okay? And they were using it on me to surveil me in my home. How do I know? Because when I would wake up in the morning, it didn't matter what time. I could wake up 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The minute that I get out of bed, they will turn on their sirens, okay? And it would be very kind of short burst. And then later on, it became full-blown siren, you know, like really, really loud. And also, when I went to the bathroom to take a piss, they would turn on their sirens, and this is every single time, okay? And this was very early on in my targeting when it was so intense and so detrimental to my mental state that they were doing this, okay? And so now, over a decade later, they're talking about this technology. Well, this technology is not new. This technology, like I said, has been developed over decades, okay? It first started with sonar, okay? The development of X-ray, they've been trying to develop many ways in which to use it for surveillance, those kind of things. And so, you know, the things that we as targets have talked about for years and years and years, okay, you see that it's coming out into the public, okay? And we are the people who they test these technologies on, right? We who call ourselves targeted individuals. We are the experimentees, okay? The lab subjects, right? The human experiment subjects that they test out these technologies on, right? And so, you know, when we talk about noise campaign, if you know anyone who claims to be a target in your area, in your neighborhood, I want you to listen to the amount of noise that happens around. And I'm sure if a target move into your area, a targeted individual move into your area, you will see a huge uptake in noise, particularly from emergency vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks, police, utility vehicles. You will see that there is a huge, huge uptake in the level of noise. And this is 24/7. From late at night to very early in the morning, you will hear it. And that will give you an indication that someone in your neighborhood is being targeted by the police for whatever reason. Okay? And so this is something that they do, right? So again, it's not surprising that this article came out that talks about the NYPD using these see-through wall technologies to surveil people, right? Because like I said, I've talked about this for well over a decade, okay? So it's nothing new, all right? Now, also, my targeting today is pretty interesting. They were microwaving me, my kids, their mom, and I had to leave and come back to my house because when they start doing that, we tend to get into arguments because these type of technology, what they do is that they basically they don't have total control over the person, but they may induce words and thoughts into the individual mind to send the target a subliminal message. Now, I've talked about semantic priming. Again, as a target, you have to do a lot of research on psychology and psychological techniques, particularly neuro-linguistic programming, classical conditioning. You have to learn about those things, and because that's how they condition you, right? They condition you using a lot of those methods, right? And this is mind control. This is behavioral behavioral science technology that they are using. So, I wanted to see what would happen if I did certain things. So I went onto a website, a dating website, and just browsing, and the minute I did that, within half an hour, the sirens lit up. I mean, they lit up for like a good 10 minutes straight, okay? Then they lit up again when I woke up in the morning, and this was, today is Thursday, so this was Tuesday, right? Because Wednesday, they started heavily with the targeting and the noise campaign. And so now, on my way home, they were using the gang stalkers with dogs, right? So everywhere I turn and I'm driving, there's either a young teenager or an older individual with a dog, at the corner, or there'll be someone standing with a bag, with a dog printed on the bag, right? So, like they're trying to say, well, he's a dog. I already said this before, like I said, they get you into relationships with people who they give information about you. And then these people think that they can somehow control you and use you to their benefit, right? And, I noticed. I have two kids with someone who turned out for me to be, a buffer, what I call a buffer, meaning that every time I talk about my targeting, I would be completely ignored, okay? And like if, I'm talking, to a brick wall, right? So I would be continually ignored as if these things didn't exist. When I talk about the experiments that happened in the past, it's like, they don't want to get into that conversation, they don't want to talk about it. And my thing is that, if you're in a relationship with someone and you say that you care about someone, then you will want to find out and try to help that individual, right? Whichever way you can. And, one thing that I know about people that care about each other, especially if I care about someone, is that I would try to find out what's happening, But when they put you in a relationship with a perp, and you wouldn't know this until probably like a couple years later, after they feel that they've known enough about you and that they can use them in some form or fashion against you to try to trap you into staying with them for whatever reason. Okay, because again, they just want to control you. That's basically it's all about. It's all about control. Okay, and unfortunately, we have a lot of human beings walking around with that mentality that, hey, we can't control people. I want to own this person. Okay, and one thing that me is that, listen, if I'm in a relationship, I don't own anybody. Okay, I own myself. My kids I own until they get to a certain age, and then they become adults and they can go do whatever they want to do. Okay, but there are people out there who have this ownership mentality, who think that they can control and own you. Okay, if you marry them, then they own you, right? So they can do whatever. They can talk to you however way they want to. They can disrespect you in whatever ways. They can talk bad about you to your friends, to their family, right? And then they can come smile in your face like you don't know what's going on. But I know what's going on. Okay, I've seen texts. I've seen messages that's related to me in a negative way. okay? And then that individual will come smile in my face and talk to me like, you know, this individual loves me or whatever, right? But I already seen the text and everything. So, because as a target, you know, you kind of have to do some investigation in terms of with the people who you in a relationship when you come in contact with. So one of the things that they, like I said, and this is, you know, if you look at cult behavior, and if you look at people who are in cults, when they try to, like I said, they try to recruit me into the gang stalking, and I know I'm not going to do it. Okay, you will never recruit me into doing this, or into silencing my, you into silencing me about speaking out against what it is that you're doing. That will never happen. So of course they're going to try to play the, oh, he's mentally ill, he's crazy. So, you know, like a lot of my Facebook friends will start posting stuff like, oh, this is crazy, or that's crazy. So they always throw in the word crazy in there, you know, to try to label me, right? So again, like I said in my previous video, they will use the psychiatric industry, the psychiatric field to label the target. That way, when the target do talk about what's happening to them, you know, they will be retaliated against, right? Either if the targets have kids, they will have their kids taken away. If they're still working, they will lose their job. You know, they will get laid off from their job and stuff like that. So, you know, there's always a level of retaliation with these people, right? Because they're constantly trying to shut me up. So, for instance, if I'm walking down the street, people will walk by me and they would do this. Okay, this is what they would do, or they'll use like different things. They'll go like, right, or you'll see them sticking or touching their clothes, their article with a particular color, and with their thumb. So they'll literally walk towards me and go like this, right? I mean, literally that's what they do. Okay, so I'm just giving some example. I'm not trying to target any one. If you're a target individual mode, I'm not trying to target you. I'm just trying to give examples of what it is that these people do. Okay. And also, you know, like when it comes to dealing with the police, they'll do the same thing. They'll whenever they see me, they'll turn around and put their hands behind the back, like if like like when they're arresting someone, right? So they will, when they say put your hands behind your back, that kind of thing. So they will do that, right? Again, psychological harassment. Okay, people don't think that people can be harassed psychologically. Then, like I said in the previous video, then they've done a good job of dumbing you down. Okay, not all is there physical harassment, there's psychological harassment, there's sexual harassment. There's different kinds of harassment. So don't think when somebody say they're being psychologically harassed that it's not happening. Okay. The government have done a good job of creating a society in which when people talk about psychological harassment, they are automatically discredited. Automatically. And you have to think about that. Okay? Think about that. Right? They did the same thing in Russia, Germany, North Korea, China, okay, Vietnam. They've done the same thing. And like I said, this government is expert in understanding the human mind, understanding ways and how to manipulate the human mind, okay? And we see this especially as a black man in America. We've seen this, and I'm just trying to get the camera steady because my hand is tied. My phone's... So anyway, we've seen this in America as a black person, right? When you look at, in the criminal justice system, people who have been manipulated into false confession, okay, to say, well, I committed this crime when they didn't, right? Because they were psychologically manipulated, they were under duress, that kind of thing. And that's the state that they have targeted individuals. Okay, on top of that, using the directed energy weapons, the mind control weapons and technology against the targets and using it on the people around them, okay? Because they know that people won't believe what we say. They know that. Okay, they've already created a narrative, okay? They've created the level of blamelessness when it comes to them because they're going to put it all on the victim, right, of these non-consensual illegal human experimentation. Okay? So, some of the things that they do when they start targeting me like this. right? For one, whenever I call my son, my older son, you know, his mother won't pick up the phone, that sort of thing. You know, to try to get me into that, you know, I guess anger state or what have you, whatever, you know, frustrated, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, there's a pattern that as a target you begin to realize and you begin to see. When they start the heavy targeting campaign, this is what they do. Okay, so I've noticed. And like I said, they will never shut me up. They can come at me in any which way they can. And again, you know, there are evidence out there, and I'm trying to relay this message so that it doesn't happen to you or members of your family or someone you love, because they will target you for any reason. Any reason. Okay, and the rate that these police officers are killing people, okay, and they're not being held accountable, that should give you an idea of what's to come. This is what they want. A compliant society.